Welcome to Great Conversations, the podcast where meaningful dialogue uncovers insights that spark new perspectives and inspire change. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Integrate, a wellbeing platform designed to help you reconnect with yourself and live a life of balance and fulfillment. With personalised assessments, science-backed tools, coaching and community support, Integrate empowers you to build resilience, reduce stress and thrive both personally and professionally. Visit www.integrate.net to claim your free 14-day trial and start your journey to balance today. And now, let's dive into this inspiring conversation. Hello, I am excited to start not only season 5 of Great Conversations, but also 2025 by talking to the amazing Mick Cronin, who is a social change maker. Mick, welcome to Great Conversations. Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year, Nicola. Thanks for having me. I am really good. Probably a little bit warmer than you. It's pretty hot here in Australia. Look, we're really excited to be here and looking forward to chatting with you.
Amazing. Me too. And you know what? I was saying this before we started recording. I hadn't even put this together, but your question from the previous guest is so timely given that we are starting a new year. So Mick, what are you most excited about for the future?
It's a big question, isn't it? What are you excited about the future? Look, I think what's exciting me at the moment is, I'm just started a new venture, which is a new social enterprise, which is blending my experience of social justice and social entrepreneurship and working with marginalised people, and I'm doing that and I'm blending that with mainstream recruitment. So bringing the two of them together. So really, it's going to be a recruitment agency that's really focusing on basically helping people from marginalised backgrounds gain and maintain really meaningful and supportive employment. So that's really exciting me because it's kind of it's brought me full circle in kind of my career, and I'm kind of back at the start again. But it's somehow really, really ignited the fire in me, and the kind of hustle is back, and I love that.
I love that for you. Congratulations. It takes, two things. It takes a lot of courage, I think, to step into your passion and purpose and start something new yourself, but also to be driven by a desire to help. Absolutely in awe. And I would love for you to tell me more about when you talk about marginalised communities. First of all, who in specifically are you going to be working with? But also, if you could help me understand, how did you even get here?
Yeah. So look, just the first part of it. So people living in marginalisation or, experiencing disadvantage. So it's broad. So I've kind of focused most of my work, my history is with youth justice. So really a target cohort. What I'm looking at now is marginalised people is it will be people from different backgrounds, different race, sexuality, gender, have you focus on, women in work as well. And then I think, still keeping that justice feel as well, but really looking at people that are just not able to, for whatever reasons, their background, their lived experience of what they're doing and all of that and everything that wraps around that, which is massive. Really what I'm looking at is saying, well, look, there is this a massive amount of people that are experiencing this and are experiencing challenges of getting into any kind of job or being supported in any kind of job because of what they're living through, because of what they've lived through. It could be women that are being displaced because of domestic violence and so forth. And we wanted to keep it much broader than just going in on some on focusing on a few cohorts. I've done that for a long time, and this is what really excites me, is being able to say, look, we can spread this more and we can help more people with it as well. So that's the cohort that we will be kind of looking at, and it's large, it's broad, but we want it to be that way, so we can reach as many people as we can and support as many people as we can. But the biggest thing about that is the employer. So a lot of the focus that I'm doing now is on the employer. That's kind of like a light bulb kind of moment. Do you know what I mean? Like working in this field, I think you fall into a trap of always walking into meetings or pitching to people and telling them what the problem is and how you're going to fix it. And what we're doing now, what I'm doing now is really simply reversing that. And it's actually going to the actual employers, going to the companies and saying, like, what are your gaps? What are your, diversity and inclusion gaps? What are your social procurement gaps? What are your employment targets? Why aren't you meeting them? What are your experiences on trying to meet them? And then from that, looking at what their actual positions and skills are that they're looking at to fill. And then it's going back and trying to match that to the people that we're trying to support.
It's all about visibility, isn't it? So, I think in those scenarios, it's really hard for people who are experiencing marginalisation to connect with the people that would maybe be able to give them employment or, to be, for many different reasons, barriers of entry. But we know from the science of unconscious bias that, people tend to recruit and stay within their small circle. So, yeah, as you say, it sounds simple, but actually there's so many barriers that, as a privileged person that maybe has never experienced that, you just don't see and you're not mindful of. And then I also, one of the things that I'd like to explore a little bit further, because what's really resonating for me is this concept of, your story not defining your future. Where did or how did this, I guess, purpose and fuel and passion for justice, social justice, representing marginalised communities, like, where did that come from in your life? What's your story that's led you to this place?
I've come a different way around where I've ended up. And if you had said to me when I was, 19, 20, even younger, and if I was going through my 20s that I would end up doing this work, I would have been so like, what? That kind of work, right? Like, yeah. And it wasn't because I wasn't, I didn't have empathy or I didn't have any of that. I probably had all that. I just probably wasn't exercising that enough because I was completely submerged in just living and, and living my life as that was. And a lot of that was probably living in the fast lane. Probably the best way to put it as well. So like, look, born in Dublin, grew up in a town called Swords, close to the airport. Nothing much going on there when you were younger. I think like everywhere else now, everything is so different for people growing up. But, you had your standard things and you relate to this, you had, I think a snooker hall and you had about 1 million pubs. Yeah. And then in between that, nothing much really else. You had your sporting clubs and so forth. So grew up in that town.
1 million churches probably as well.
Yeah, well, a couple of churches. Don't get me going on the churches, but yeah, a couple of churches that you had. Yeah. And growing up in that, look, you bring it up, but growing up in a Catholic background as well. So making your confirmation, your communion. The funniest was always confession for me. That was brilliant. They used to bring you, I don't know if you remember this. I know we're diversity, but this is where it's going to probably go. What you just brought back memories. I remember they used to bring you from school up to do your like confessions. The whole class, they'd march you up into the school from primary school, and you'd go in and you'd wait, and one by one you'd go into the church and you'd tell them your confessions, and you'd be like, what? And you'd be saying, "Well, I didn't, such and such when I did
stole this bag of sweets."
I stole this bag of sweets, or I threw a rock at this guy, and something like that. You know what I mean? There'd be someone in there that's just unloading, And
honestly, the Catholic fear. And then, as you say, you're all standing queuing outside, and then it's like, oh my God, Jim's been in there about 20 minutes. What did you do? And then it's like, I've got 20 Hail Marys. What?
That's what you used to ask. What did you get? I got 30 Hail Marys and an Our Father. Oh, what? And you got an Our Father? What the hell did you do? I told him everything. So then we could do a whole podcast on stories from growing up in this, like, involved in all that. So basically, went to school, did all that, went to secondary school, had no interest in that. Like, I wasn't a student. I was a social student. Yeah. Get me in there. Let me be social. I turned up for that more than anything else. And basically probably had this kind of bit of, arrogance but like, I'll get through the exams and get through that. But like I got to my leaving cert. I think I failed the first time I did it because I was like, went in and decided I'm going to do honours this, I'm going to do pass. I changed everything up on the day. I was like all over the place, failed. And went, oh, that's a bit of a lesson. Went back and did it again and probably did worse that year in study, but actually passed. So, skill for me was never something that learning that way was never something that I really adapted to, where I did learn and where this brought me into my work was I learned outside. I learned from people. I learned from being out and about. I was always out of my house. I was always social. My household growing up wasn't great. I was, the best way of putting it is like, my household was marinated in alcohol and substance, like looking back on it, there was people far worse off me, and I'll never play like a victim of that. But, I did, grow up in a household where, pretty much I had four older brothers. I was the youngest. So by the time they got to me, my parents probably were just done, like you do what you want. And I probably much did, so really reflecting back on that, like I never had anyone where I went to for guidance or worldly advice or any of that. I didn't have any of that. Never had that. I figured that out myself, or you figured it out with your mates. So like my brothers all moved away and stuff. So my friends became my family in a sense, and they probably became what got me through a lot of times, which they probably don't even knew. I was very good at maths and stuff, and that as well. And this is where it kind of related to my work, and I didn't know it at the time, but this is where I'm going with this. Everything that I was living, everything that I was doing, was preparing me like some crazy way for what I was about to enter into later in my life. But look, I basically got out of Dublin as quick as I could, like 18, 19, started to travel. And then I moved to Australia in 2003. So I never did any social work. I never did anything else in Ireland that led me to helping any people, from a marginalised background, disadvantaged background, as whatever. I never did any of that. Never even entered my mind. I just lived life and so forth. Worked in, factories and so forth. And in my last job, I worked in a car park, and anyone that would listen to this will laugh at this one because it was a soul destroying job. It killed me, but it was 2 years where I kind of worked in a car park and just, saved money to get me out of Dodge. Really. I love Dublin. I love the town. I love the people. I love all it gives you. I'm very proud to be Irish, proud to be from Dublin. But it wasn't a place for me to live. I never would have got to where I am if I stayed in Dublin. And I know that really clearly. So I moved to Australia in 2003 and I tried to get a job in anything and everything. I think my brother was doing kind of work in similar places. He ended up being a counselor, but he was doing some work in a drug and alcohol place, and he got me an interview, which I was kind of like, I can't work in there. I think I was like probably fearing that I was probably, drinking and doing more than the people that were in there at the time. So, but what happened is I started to work in this with people that were, detoxing from drug and alcohol, and really quickly I found something about myself, and that was that I understood in some ways, but I didn't preach, and I figured that I didn't have to fix things. Like I wasn't there to fix you. Like I'm not there to fix you to come off heroin, or I'm not there to fix you because you're, smoking tons of ice, crystal meth. I'm not there what I'm there is to help you and support you as you figure this out. So what it taught me was that, I could listen, but I could also provide options without actually pushing onto them what I felt that you need to do. There's obviously times when you need to like say, well, this is a pathway, but that's where I started. And then that gave me a really good understanding of work with young people, really challenging work. And after 4 years, I was quite nearly burnt out from it because it was just like a revolving door. You'd help someone, you'd see them get clean for a couple of weeks, and then they'd go off, and then they'd come back 4 months later in an absolute mess again. And then you do it again and you do it again.
Like, what was the impact that was having on your life in terms of what you were learning about yourself? Because as you say, like, it feels as if your lived experience, whilst it wasn't maybe as extreme as that, there was, as you say, lots of similarities. So, yeah, I'm just really interested.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I think I was able to just show up. I think I was able to, what I was able to do, what I realized about myself was I was able to take on a lot. So when someone was pouring stuff on me, I was able to take it. And also didn't have an urge to say, well, this is what I did now, because you can't do that. You can't do that when you're working in drug and alcohol work, right? That's removed. So it's fantastic. So it forces you to engage in different ways. Yeah. The people that work in it really successfully are the ones that I think that can do that. The ones that fall into the trap of trying to push their experience onto other people, that's not good for anyone, and it's certainly not good for the worker. So I think when I was showing up, I used to always, make sure that the key things that I had when I went in there was that I was myself, that I, was really, you have to be really, really real, because people will cut right through you. You're trying to help those vulnerable people. You can't lie. You can't, make promises you can't keep. You can't do any of that. So you got to be super, super aware of where they're at and what they're going through. And you've got to have a world view. Now, I didn't know what a world view was then, trust me. But you've got to put yourself, but I was obviously practicing it in a sense where you've got to say, well, look, they might be really erratic. They might be calling me this. They might be saying this. They don't know me. They're not against me. That's what's gripping them in addiction. That's the addiction gripping them, and that's the come down that's gripping them. I'm here to make sure that that they're safe, and so forth. So once I kind of understood that, then I knew how to turn up most days and be present. After 4 years, that was enough for me. I wanted to have a longer lasting kind of impact. And I got offered a job working on a new project, and that was working with people that were that were incarcerated, youth, so in youth detention centres and in the community who were on orders. And basically, it was like about finding them employment and so forth as well. So I started doing that, going into detention centres, going into prisons. Never did it before. Never, had any justice part like that. So really was then, learning as I went.
I really, really adore what you're saying about not putting your lived experience onto other people. I feel like that happens so often just in relationships, doesn't it? When you turn to people and you share, or when you share in any relationships, it's natural for the other person to give their advice, tell you what to do. And I think having that skill to be able to hold space for someone to listen, to know when to offer your perspective, to be open to other people's perspectives. I can imagine that that's a really, well, you tell me, like, what has that, I guess, approach to the world that you clearly have taken around listening, holding space, being open to other perspectives? What's been the impact, would you say, on your relationships and experience of life?
Oh, look, I still think I'm learning at that like all the time, I think it's taught me to be, I think when I was younger, I was very caught up in what people thought of you and what people thought, you always have to have this persona, and you always had to have a front. And I probably did have a front where I was a bit of a, I was always, always having fun, always messing around. You probably couldn't get at me too much in that sense, but I had a really kind of underlying stuff as well. So I think as I get older, I think that has is obviously really helped me.
I'm really interested then, because, before we move on to the work that you're doing at the moment, the just addiction, and there's lots of, I think, misunderstanding and misconception around addiction. And what is something that you believe passionately that people need to know or better understand about addiction, so that we can maybe bring, I think there's a lot of judgment and shame around it. And so to sort of, I think for me, be able to better bring some empathy.
As you kind of look at it now and you see people that might get on a tram here in Melbourne, or, get on a train or a bus or whatever, and, they're heavily intoxicated and all that, I suppose a natural reaction to many people, and even to, is like, oh God, I hope they don't come and sit beside me, or I hope I don't, or you suddenly, your body seizes up, you move back, you do all of that. For me, like, I'm like no one different. It all depends on the situation. But I suppose where, you gain to that is like, you kind of know that like they're having a shit day, right? And they've had a really probably shit week, and probably a shit year, and probably a shit decade. You know what I mean? And you don't know why has led them to be there. You don't know what they have faced. You don't know people say, oh, you need to get clean. Like, it's not that easy. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. And I think the biggest thing that you don't know is, people don't walk around with a sign on their head saying, I've experienced trauma. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to see that, right? You don't get to see sometimes you get to see what it looks like, but it's not so visible. So it's the stuff that's not visible that is probably the thing that, people who don't walk in a field like this, or who don't have, you know, empathy like other people, or don't have that as much. It's really hard for them to do. I don't blame, like, I don't sit there and go, oh God, you need to be, what? I just think that that's just where society is at. And obviously media, and obviously everything else that plays into that makes it more difficult all the time for people to probably have more understanding. And I just think people don't know how to react to it. I really simply don't. You don't know what you're not taught sometimes, and I think it's sometimes unfair that, like, I think the pressure, like, for people to feel like they should have empathy. People what, but I just don't know what to do. Like, in the work I'm working in now, right? You work with companies who want to employ people for a community good, a social good. They just don't know how to do it. So they don't do it. So they don't approach it because they're afraid of how to do it, and they don't understand it. So once you teach them and say, this is how you do it, it's not much different than anything else, then they have an understanding. Once you gain an understanding, it helps you then, when you see something in life, to actually, approach it in a different way. And that's just going to be an ongoing challenge for the world forever.
I agree with you. And I think, my perspective is, part of the problem is that we're unable to face our own emotions and deal with what's coming up for us. And that's prevalent in that, as you say, when you walk past somebody who's homeless, or, maybe intoxicated or showing addiction, it brings up so many emotions within ourselves, and we struggle at the best of times to deal with emotions in a healthy way and to know what to do with them. So it's understandable that people just reject it and run the other way, because they don't know what to do with what it throws up. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
I have this, I don't know what it is. I can take on a lot, and I don't seem to let it get me. Like, I don't seem to let it, like, seep into me. Like, I've been told some of those incredible things, and things people have done, the most incredibly bad things, and even hours after the moments of doing it, and it's crazy what if I reflect back, and I don't actually to reflect back on it too much, but in the moments, I don't know what it is. I don't have like I don't have this infatuation with, like, crime or anything like that. It's not that at all. It's not like that, or people suffering or whatever it is. I just am able to withhold it more than probably other people can. I've never received, I've never had to go and receive counseling, or I never had to go to that. Now, maybe I probably needed to at some stage. I don't know, but I have never really. My work that I bring home isn't that. This is going to be an interesting thing. My work that I bring home is not that. Yes, I care about people. I'm thinking, oh my God, like, that is so sad. That is tragic. That has given me more perspective on life. It's given me more, I suppose, gratitude. At times when you need to be looking at that. But the thing that I would bring home is my ability to run a business, or to make more opportunities for young people. So when you have, or you're running, or you're managing business where you feel it relies on you to find money, to find new programs, to work with government, to make impact, that's the stuff that hurts me. That's the stuff that after a while can get on you and get on you and get on you. When I was working with people and I give you that stuff, they don't. So I do have some, like, I do exercise a fair bit. I've always played football, and now I coach it. So that is a really good outlet for me as well. So, it just forces me out of it. Like, for 2 hours, I can go onto a football field, and it all goes. I try better now than ever to be more present. And this is something that I've learned over the last 6 months, 7 months after leaving a job after a very long time, is that, reflecting back, I was not present for a lot of times, because I have an addictive personality, and my addiction at that time was into this work and into this like drive, like hustle. I've got to make more. I've got to get more money. I've got to get more funding. I've got to get more jobs for these people. I've got, you got to do more innovation, create a new revenue stream, do this, do that. Didn't really need to, like I did and I didn't really need to, you know what I mean? And so that's my wellness now has never been more important to me. I've had a last whatever months has been at times a bit difficult. So it's maybe appreciate more what the importance of doing that as well.
I have so much admiration for what you do. And as you say, you talk about that pressure and that drive to do more because you want to help more people. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to me that is what is the driver towards burnout, rather than maybe, people in the corporate world experiencing different drivers and behaviors. What are some of the things, like when you say being more present, what are some of the things practically that you've done? Like, is that journaling, meditation? Like, how are you bringing presence into your life on a daily basis?
Journaling and meditation, something that I've never tried. A little bit of meditation and so forth. My brain is just it just never stops. Do you know what I mean? Like, it never stops. And I used to fight against it a lot, like in the sense of like it just. And I'm not alone. This will resonate with lots of people. Like, I just have a brain that just is really active. Like, so it can help me at times with quick thinking, but it can also just absolutely destroy me at times because it never stops thinking. And so to find like switching off and doing all that is just like, it's the hardest thing for me. Because when I never mean any disrespect to anything, but like if people are talking to me, sometimes like I'm looking a different way or I'm thinking, because like my head is thinking about it. I'm listening to them. I get what they're saying and they're like, I just got another thing thinking, if I did this or I did that with something else, I'm thinking that, or that's reminding me of something. They've said something now, it's got to remind me of something that I could do that with that innovation or that idea, or maybe that would work. So that was going on. You go to bed, like I'm that typical person, like at the moment I'm sleeping well. And I think that's to do with the, what your first question was, because I'm doing something that like excites me and so forth. But for a lot of time I go to bed and, you just would not sleep like for hours because your brain, like I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd write speeches for events that I was doing in like 6 months time. Like I just have the, like, so that was hard. So I think now it's just been a bit slower on that one. Doing things and you know what? The simple things. Don't do any work at night time. Do you mean? Don't do any work on the weekend. Switch your brain off. Play a board game with your kids, go out with your kids, do all that, been doing a lot more of that with the family, going out for dinner like a wife and family and just doing little things like that, you know what I mean? Because, that to me is as well, is the best wellness I could do.
Yeah. And that part, I mean, to be fair, I reckon that's the answer to how do you bring joy into your life. And I love what you're saying because I think it's interesting. I've been having conversations recently about that, of this reprioritization in your life. And I think as you say, we're all juggling everything because, the reality is we're stretched in many different directions. And it's how do you do that? I feel like this concept of balance or reprioritization, like how do you slow down enough to be able to hold everything? So to be able to give, when you're in work, to be fully focused and committed and passionate with what you're doing in work. When you're with your family, to be fully committed and present and passionate with your family. And it's just sort of trying to figure out how you do that, isn't it? And for me, it sounds like it might be similar to you, but for me, it simply just comes down to choice. Like you just have to choose. When I'm in work, I'm all in. When I'm with my family, I'm all in. Because if you're not all in either one, then you shouldn't be there. Like I'm making it sound simple, but in some ways it is simple. It's like, it is just a choice. You get to choose how you're showing up in relationship with everyone. So what's important to you?
Yeah, so true. So true, yeah.
And so we are at the end of our time together, Mick. So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask all my guests, which is, what is something that other people value that you don't?
This is such a tough question. And I think we spoke about it a little bit along the way. I think I've got better at it. I think people place a really high, like some people place a really high value on that, the wellness or even self-compassion. a little bit more. Like, so I don't know. I think I, for a long time, and still I don't give myself a break as much as, others have been. And if I reflect back on the last 6 or so months, probably more so than ever, I wasn't giving myself a break. You know what I mean? Like, highly critical of, things that that I should be doing or should be seen to be doing. And I know people place a really high value on, on self-compassion and doing that as well, and not being critical. That's something that people value that I probably don't value as much, you know what I mean? Like that as well. And in the wellness, like there's the other parts, like I've never really, I spoke about being present, spoke about that, but I've never placed a really high value on, the parts of like, things like meditation, things like, like I've never, it's something that I've always said, I should do, but I've never really placed as much of value. And I see, but the thing about it is I see the value that people have from doing it, as well. But I think, it's a hard question because like, there's probably lots of other things I don't value. I probably don't value sleep as much as other people. I don't value, staying like calm as much as other people, or staying like, doing nothing. But, I think that self-compassion is probably the one thing that I probably really, if I reflect over the last 6 months, have not valued enough, as much as other people would do, So I've been quite highly critical of myself, my standing in the world, meaning in employment and as a, social change maker, entrepreneur, or whatever it is. I, put too much pressure on myself, but don't value that, taking that, releasing the valve.
And is that something that you want to change? Is that something that you're hoping to change as you step into this other business, is like bring more self-compassion rather than self-criticism into your driver and your motivator? Or are you just okay with being like, nah, I don't think I need it?
It ain't a bit of me, I suppose. I think I'd probably reframe it a little bit and just be like, I won't sweat as much. You know what I mean? Sweat the small stuff as much. I think I'll be able to. I think in a new one, it's just really having a better accountability piece on myself. You know what I mean? Or a bit more of a clocking on myself to say like, what are you getting worried about that for? You know what I mean? And the person I'm with co-founder, he's been like, even in the interactions with the co-founder, because he knows me, there's no bullshit right out between us. So like, he just like, what are you doing that for? That's ridiculous. And I'll be like, hey, you're right. What was I doing that for? You know what I mean? So I think having that kind of really healthy, calling out or accountability piece has always been is good. So I think that might be where I'll kind of reframe it a little bit. And it's not about not being so critical against myself, but probably being a little bit different in my approach to things and just letting things go a bit easier.
Yeah, I hear you. I really respect that. Mick, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
As I've said before, I'm so excited for your new venture. I know that it's going to be a huge success, and I'm excited for the impact that it's going to bring to people's lives as well. So, huge congratulations and good luck with that. And thank you for giving me your time today. I genuinely really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me as a guest. It's been great. Always great talking to you, Nicola. So, but it's been wonderful being on the podcast. It's nice to be on the other side of it, being interviewed. It's been a strange experience, but a lovely experience. That's down to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being part of another great conversation. Your thoughts and feedback really mean the world to me, so please let me know what stood out to you or what topics you'd like us to explore next. Your feedback and input really helps us grow, so please don't hesitate to leave a comment or reach out. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with someone who might benefit, and subscribe to our channel. It honestly makes a huge difference. Not only does it help us reach more people, but it also helps us grow this incredible community. I want to send a heartfelt thank you to my editor, Stian Ritz, for making every episode sound amazing. And also to Jamie Jenkin for the beautiful music you hear each week. As always, I'm sending you so much love. Bye for now.